Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of December the 16th till 22nd, 2024. We are ahead of another very powerful week, but of course you're used to this already because from a totally perhaps different perspective than just a couple of even days ago. And why am I saying that? Well, this week is gonna host a really powerful, I would even dare to go as far as to say, reality changing energy shift, but it's invisible, it's hidden, it's not in the spotlight whatsoever. So we might not be able to, the moments when we are going to be feeling it, because we are going to be feeling it, that's 100%, we might not really know what to make of it or where to look for it, especially if you are a student of astrology and have any kind of chart. You might want to look what this planet or that planet is doing or in your own personal chart. Why am I feeling so unusually active, let's say? But yeah, we'll get to that later on in the horoscope. But let's begin by perhaps one of the most important energies that we are going to very intensely even notice is Mercury that is going direct. So Mercury officially went stationary direct, so direct on the 15th, and the 15th, so today, sorry, because I'm recording this on the 15th, was the day of a Gemini full moon with a lot of duality to it. And the duality, not just because we're speaking about the very famous dual sign of Gemini, but also because other aspects, some of which actually spoke directly to the moon, the full moon, highlighted the duality and made it quite contrasting, made it quite perhaps a bit bothersome, made it not all that much flowy. Because, when the duality or whatever contradiction even is flowy and is in the theme and is part of the big picture, well, it's like a very unusual color in a work of art, a painting, let's say, a contrast or stuff like that. But when it's bothersome, well, then it's not very okay. When it's bothersome, it has a message. It has, and it did, and this is where the message itself will take us a few good days to even process, because the aspect that I'm speaking about is a T-square, so a square, moon square with Neptune. Not an easy energy to comprehend, understand, decipher something, not even when it's the opposite. Pisces and both Gemini can be the opposite of something. When we need to give a meaning to something, even conjuring up or philosophizing, dreaming up, thinking, whatever of a meaning is very difficult and hard. And so we are not having a very easy time with this Gemini full moon. And of course, the other effect of this, the non-personal effect, which has absolutely nothing to do with our personal stories and who we are. Well, that's the uh, part where no matter what we do in everyday life, well, chances are we're going to be bombarded by information. Jupiter in Gemini, very active, very, it's almost like screaming. It's almost like when Jupiter is using like a megaphone or something to be really loud, pointing out the obvious. But this is how sometimes even the megaphone is not enough for the deeply ignorant. So, you know what I mean? But anyway, where I'm going with this, information is everywhere. And I'm not just speaking about like TV, social media, or any kind of conversations or information sharing platform or aspect of life or anything. It's simply almost like we are the prey and the information is the hunter. It's simply looking for us. We need to barricade on ourselves in an ignorant bubble just to have 5 minutes of mind peace, if that makes even sense. So this is where it comes either from friends, even from the self. Sometimes overthinking, there you go. Very much a mercurial energy. Very, very specific to Virgo. Virgo is the champion, of course, but many other signs have it in their own way. But even if it's, let's say, not necessarily overthinking, well, tumultuous, we can call that actually a valid information. Experiences may come from dreams. So our brain is basically bombarded regardless of where we wanna go for peace and quiet. Like, let me give you an example. Maybe there are people out there who live a more like a solitary lifestyle where there's not too much people around where they live. For example, farm, like I don't even know the appropriate word, like a, I don't know, a state somewhere where it's not necessarily in the middle of nowhere, but neither very densely populated. So where I'm going with this, that type of person, if they truly want, they can shut the door to Mercury retrograde in a practical outer reality type of sense. But they may have animals, they have flowing water or electricity in their house. Mercury gets to us in many other ways. So even a hermit who could not really, not could not, but let's say protected themselves from Mercury retrogrades usual, they were still not safe because, let's say an animal played up electricity, water, it makes you think. And it makes you think of, for example, 10 different solutions at the same time, trial and error. So that person will get just as bombarded like me or you or even highly social. Actually, highly social people are the ones who, in a way, know how to cope the best under this. And you might say, well, isn't that when they are like obliterated? Not really, because they are highly social in under any Mercury. It doesn't matter where Mercury is. So under a tumult, they know how to manage much better than anyone else. And they have that survival instinct of modern survival instinct that they will shut down phone, internet, everything, and go to a day into the spa or replace whatever before they break down or before anything bad happens, because their instinct is wired in such a way that that's their jungle, so they are adapted to that. You know what I mean? So sorry for this, I don't even know what to call it, this astrology, alchemy, psychology mesh, but actually, even my horoscope is affected by all this Mercurial and Gemini and mutable square energy, because I'm packing everything, even that which has nothing directly to do with the advice for this week. So let's get back. So we start everything with the Gemini full moon energy, which is hard because of the Neptune square, but of course it has a lot of good sides as well. But if you want to find out more, just check out the specially dedicated video for that. But what is a bit different is that Mercury now is already starting to go direct. It's not very fast yet, but it's starting to move a few minutes. And this is very important because while doing so, it holds a quite tight trine with Mars. So, right off the bat, this is a very, very strong empowerment because even though Mercury going direct might not guarantee for everyone and everything a direct wrap up of the Mercury retrogrades, this winter's Mercury retrograde season. However, what it does guarantee a lot of motivation, determination, inner fire, or well thought through future action, for example. When you can't react to something immediately because of whatever. Let me give you an example. In the case of an offer, contractual offer, you actually need to think about it or consult husband, wife, mommy, someone. So there's that. That's one of the more non passionate examples of this energy because it's fire trine. It kind of has to be passionate. And we must also not forget that Mars is retrograde at this moment. And that always, always, always favors stopping a bit before we react. So that favors at least wanting to have more self-discipline than normally because it's wise, because the situation needs it, or because you're totally powerless, so you have no choice. One situation or the other. And why did I say powerless? Mars, Mars and Pluto are opposing each other, and as Mars goes further and further backwards, their opposition is more and more exact, stronger, powerlessness. But this is just a big keyword that I'm using. Don't necessarily understand it as such. Understand it as power dynamic. When it shifts, power goes from one element to the other, hence creating a state of powerlessness at somewhere and more power the other, or when power is simply dispersed, it vanishes. That's also a different power dynamic. Or when like a raging bull, empower yourself. That's also a massive power shift. And you might say, well, that's not powerlessness. That's no, no, no. It is also powerlessness because it will be what you mustered up that will rule you. You will not be the boss of the state anymore. That's why you conjure up the state. So it does something for you. Anyway, this is just insignificant details. But the reason why I'm saying all these examples is that Mars retrograde, where it turns inwards and the action is much more internal, may not be all that obvious until we think much more, deeper of action, reaction, and everything Martian, and look at it in our lives, in the self, in our relationships, and what we do, how we react, especially. Long story short, Pluto stirs this up, and Mercury trine Mars is really, really empowering because we are thinking. We want to take wise, diligent, empowered, hopeful, anything that highlights a really, really good Mercury type of action, where it's, well, either really, really, really thought out, or very professional, or very sure of myself. All works. Even though for some people, some of us, and of course on the world stage, there will be like an immediate something, a change of the situation or action or choice or communication or, Mercury and Sag. Law, long distance travel, connection with foreign countries, nations, and of course your own higher mind, your own higher education, higher philosophies, worldview, and everything that basically how you interpret the higher meaning of the world around you. So it's going to be quite busy in this sense, because Mars, as I said again, either immediately or will soon, in the next, realistically speaking, 6 months, do something with it. With this knowledge, wisdom, processing, truth, whatever it is that Mercury dishes out to the table. However, there is a lot of stress factor in the air, because the big lessons and wrap-ups of the Mercury retrograde period for everyone individually in their lives are just one activity. Here, this is the Mercury-Mars trine. And again, I must say, Mercury is already starting to go direct. But there is another informational element here which complicates things. That is Mars, sorry, not Mars, the Sun quincunx Uranus. This is where some things come out of nowhere. Sudden change of events. Sudden change of dates, time, schedules. Anything that has to do with money, finances, business, but in the sense that the bigger picture, if you know what I mean, the big expectation is changing. Not necessarily the small, fine details, but exactly the big ones, right? So, and also in personal relationships, news, words, communication, gossip, you know what I mean? What he is thinking, what she is thinking, stirring things up, you know what I mean? And not necessarily in the best possible way, even though the intention might be the best. But you know what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So under this energy, let's not get involved in conversations, situations, in other people's personal stuff, especially that things that have to do with belief, something extremely subjective, and value, because those things are are meant to be like that. A way for one being, another for another, you know. We are meant to be very different at those. Like, the more different we are, the better but this is the big if those differences add value to one another, because then we're making each other rich, right? In a non-material money way, but rather in a psychological life experience and why not philosophical way, you know? I lived in England for very many years, so I know having neighbors or colleagues or whatever people around you from other cultures, from other anything, is really, really educational. It is so enriching. The stories you hear, and you don't hear the stories from, I don't know, YouTube or this book, that book. You hear it from the soul of the person who lived it. It's her grandmother, grandfather, mother, father, or them personally, child, whatever. It's them. The energy comes to you so personally, so alive. And it is exactly these mixes of, I don't know, energies, ultimately social energies, that really spark tourism, curiosities, the richness of it. But the very same thing can be the total opposite, where it leads to, I don't need to tell you the list. A lot of bad type of misunderstanding and belief debates, which are ridiculous by themselves. Belief is not susceptible to anything. But anyway, you get what I mean. So all of this is part of the picture very, very strongly. And not just for this week, for the next minimum 6 months, because Mars will retrograde back into Cancer. And Cancer in itself is all of what I said, but the cultural, emotional, historic value. You know, Cancer, borders, family, people who belong to the same household, for example, etc., etc. So, and also next year, very, very soon, like in January, the nodes of the moon, especially here, the north node, moves into Pisces. Pisces is everything that exists on earth, that in spirit, in the ether, the divine dream of everything that is in existence, and also the collective unconscious in all of its sides. But we'll speak about this in greater detail in just a second, because that is exactly the highlight of the show, the collective unconscious. But we'll get to that. Um, so, um, getting back to the Piscean energy, it is very, very important, because that means we are invited to basically dream, because it's Pisces energy. Only through dream and belief and a certain guided fantasy, right? Where the words that I use are so imperfect, because what I want to say has no shape and form and cannot be defined in language, in any language, because it's Pisces. It's the ether. It's the divine in its unfathomable, infinite, eternal form, like the omni of all. So that's why it's even quite difficult to verbalize what I actually want to say, but I think you get what I mean. North Node in Pisces gives us power to work exactly there. And that is massive. Because if we change how things are in ether, their collective feeling of it, we change absolutely everything. And this works both individually and collectively alike. So yeah, this week is gonna be a very, very strong reminder of all of this, but also in a way, foresight, foreshadow, forecast for the next 6 months, really. But let's move on. This is the Mercury Mars trine. this week is also when the second Saturn and Jupiter square starts coming on big time, perfecting itself. I spoke, and I think every astrologer, in very great detail about this in more than one horoscope. But in a nutshell, what is true and what is not true, and in an evolutionary sense, because we need to mention that it's very important right now. How do we develop a proper reality filter that works for us personally? Because we are entering times where we cannot trust anything. Our eyes, what we are told, what we read, technology, everything is charged with manipulative power. Everything is a drug, really. That's the type of society. Everything is a drug. Food, every food that we eat, technology, air freshener. So even the air is not good enough for us, etc., etc. These are just very minor examples. But if we truly think about it, absolutely everything that we do, especially in modern life, highly modern life, is where we're an addict, total addict. And the funny thing is, people who are obsessed by living clean and free of anything are the greatest addicts, because it is the obsession of sterility that is ruling them, so much so that it's taking away their humanity. So basically what I'm saying is, absolutely everyone, even our pets, our your dog, your cat, your beloved pet is just like an extension of you. So they're in the same category. So pets included here. This is where we're severely addicted to everything except real life. But the thing is, real life is not what we think it is. Real life is what animals do, just exist for the sheer sake of it. But that is almost a crime in our times and society, right? Whoever exists for the sheer sake of it, where there are certain places like the United States where no, 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 you cannot exist in my city, or if you're homeless, or oh my goodness, no. You are not really a human being anymore. But you know what? Lucky for the homeless, because they don't, at least they are not absorbed in the type of massive illusion that all of the rest of us are living. They are luckier than us. Trust me when I say this. But this is all of this is sad, and Pluto is revealing all of this to us in a very, very, how should I say, unapologetic way. It is showing us all of this. Our art, our songs, our joys, our celebrations are becoming about this. This is where, would there be genuine celebrations of just outbursts of joy? That's a crime. In this day and age, that's a crime. Being happy is a crime. But think about it. You might be laughing at me and ridiculing, but if you deeply think about it, that's the kind of age and society we're already living, where being genuinely happy is a crime. Don't you dare. You know what I mean? Being free, being loving, being non-judgmental, all of this is a crime. But you know what the problem? The opposite is a crime as well. So Okay. Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. And Saturn square Jupiter. Actually, this is why I said all of this long story. Because Saturn squaring Jupiter are dishing out a very important stage of the 20-year cycle they themselves started in 2020, December 2020, when they met in Aquarius. This is the opening. This is where all of the truth that the collective is living are being dished out right now. And we cannot, no matter what tinted glasses we put on, or no matter what type of mask we put on, it doesn't work. Because on one hand, we see it and we are ashamed of it. Maybe not our egos, but trust me, our souls are very red in the face, if that makes sense, right? Because we're not proud of it. Our ego doesn't know this because our ego was conditioned as from the moment we took the first breath. Because it wasn't the forest mom gave birth to us, it was probably the hospital. Conditioned. There it is, conditioned. That's like a, I don't know, like a birth chamber, really, where, yeah, insects usually reproduce like that. Most animals, freely give birth. Anyway, but the soul cannot be deceived. The soul is dual in itself, Pisces, right? A part of it, of course, will be absorbed in the story of the self. The other part of it will be absorbed in the unconscious. The unconscious part is not deceived. But everyone's unconscious does different things with what it knows, what it perceives as truth. Some people, the unconscious makes them opportunistic because they see the truth. They feel the truth. So it's very easy for the unconscious to lead the vain sense of self to where the opportunities lie. Others rebel. This is where for other people, everything that they do in life is like a counter cry for help to society. Like, for example, the most successful artists. Their songs, paintings, whatever they create are really acts of their own attack. When superheroes have their special attack, that's their special attack. Attacking the collective lie with a greater lie, right? Other people become humbled and dedicate themselves to eternal benevolence and good. Other people become much more powerful than, for example, sexual demons. Everyone does different things with their own perception of the truth. So this is where what we think we are, the illusion of the self, the ego, that may be living in an illusion and wants to and is immersed, but don't you dare to think that the other part of you is buying it. Hence my depression is not going away no matter what I do. Maybe your depression isn't a depression. Your depression is you knowing the truth of how futile the social game is and how unnatural. And there's nothing you can do. It will not close its eyes. It will keep on knowing what the truth is and what. So this energy plays us very, very hard because it isn't showing us the truth per se. It is forcing us into the position where we draw these conclusions ourselves. If the thought is leaving our mind and not a book, not my friend's mouth, not the astrologer or whatever, but my own, well, then I struck big truth. I struck the kind of truth where, yep, this is truly me, and this is what the divine made me to feel and think in this incarnation. So that's when you really, really, when they use this fancy schmancy term of one being aligned with himself or herself. When we say it, it's really BS. Because real alignment is this: when the truth breaks us so hard that we dish it out. No one has to give us the hard, cold, hard truth. Rather, we give it to ourselves with smile and finally I know this, or finally my illusion shattered. That's being aligned. Not when we feel wonderful and, so we're gonna be feeling very, very aligned this week. Another element that really complicates things is Pallas Athena conjunct Ixion. No, dwarf planet Ixion. The rebel, but also the troublemaker. The one who cannot be subjugated to any law, anything. The element which doesn't respect anything that is enforced upon him. Doesn't mix with anything. But the positive side of Ixion is where when a law is ridiculous or deeply immoral by its very core, well, Ixion will not respect it. There are certain moments in life, philosophically only speaking, when breaking the law is the divine, aligned, moral, and right thing to do. Let me just give you the simplest example, but understand it in a brute way. Don't go into details. Let's not philosophize or politicize about this. Regime change. There you go. Regime change. One law, the other law. What fighting for which is moral, right? It's not questionable under down to earth logic, but rather the Ixionic way. You just feel what is right, you just feel what is wrong. Pallas Athena conjunct Ixion, there are going to be massive protests against certain laws, regulations, or administrative measures governments took somewhere. Then before we move on, Sun trine Aries. Again, rebellious energy. Rebellion against law, legal, or international big time. And Ceres opposing Mars. So, which means Ceres is conjunct Pluto. But Ceres isn't conjunct Pluto very, very tightly, fortunately. However, it means what no longer feeds us. Used to, yes, it used to. What is no longer simply food for us. This can be on a very down-to-earth level in the sense that certain foods that we used to consume and like or whatever simply no longer satisfy us anymore, and we need to change. Like it or not, we need to change. Or I'm gonna give you certain symbols, and I trust that you are gonna interpret it for yourself. My favorite computer game, which I played 20 years, no longer does anything for me. His love no longer makes me feel anything, but it's there. He hasn't changed. I changed. I don't know. I can't live with mom and dad anymore, even though they make me live as a king, truly, in the literal. Something in me is there. I can't do it anymore. I can't. This isn't soul food for me anymore. Or I can't live this. I can't be the good person anymore. I cannot play this character anymore. Something shifted in me. I need to let it out. Sometimes what we class as mistakes are not mistakes. Fate pulls us in different ways. So this is the type of something doesn't feed me anymore. Acknowledging that is a must, but that's the bitter part. Finding for something else that does is the interesting part, because that means trial and error. And for some people, that is the scary. For some people, that is the hard. So let's move on. Let's get to the 18th, because then I can give you some good news. Because we have, well, it's actually not on the 18th, but on the 20th, where we have Venus trine Jupiter being exact. Now, these are the two benefics, two planets that bestow blessings. So each and every time and each and every sign, it doesn't matter which element and sign they converse in a trine with, it is always something flowy, positive, harmonious. Or as Nadia Shaw says, supremely harmonious. So it's good news. Air trine. Well, and we must also take into consideration that Jupiter is retrograde. And that may be even better than direct, because it means blessings can come from the past, right? So old friends, old connections, old something. Venus in Aquarius, that is where you're connected to something and someone. Either friends, people who you share ideologies with on the anything that is on the internet and you're part of. But Aquarius is also everything that is non-physical, invisible, the interhuman web of soul groups and tribes, right? So that is also very, very activated by this energy. So a blessing, new connection or old connection, a big, big, big inspiration, a promise. I know this is air trine, but Venus is Venus, right? This is where actual, practical, down to earth, real life help, because Jupiter is generosity. And especially in Gemini, this is where, when there's a group, so they have a lot of hands, and there is a work to be done. A lot of hands makes it quicker, better, more fun. So, lending a hand. But with Jupiter and Gemini, tumultuously. So not just one, but many. So this is the situation where groups are very, very helpful. And keep in mind that this is also the holiday season, really. So you can imagine charitable gatherings, a group of friends helping the disadvantaged friend, anything where it's helpful, nice. Or this can be simply ideology. This can be principle. But when that is loving and the most beautiful part of the human spirit, Venus in Aquarius, it will always do something really, really nice. and both on a down-to-earth individual and human individual level, but also Aquarius on any level, collective, but even cosmic. So there is blessing in the sky. There is beauty. There is love, even collectively. And also Venus conjunct Pluto not so long ago. Pluto and Aquarius, the really horrible side of everything that I spoke earlier of the human collective and the illusionary fake. But there's Aquarius, another side. That side which is sacred, which is infinitely loving, which is more beautiful than nature herself. Yes, that side of the human experience is what everything is about. That which is more beautiful than nature. Why? Something that nature herself could not think of, and we did, that is like a trophy to our creator. That is where the greatest glory given to our creator, right? And nature respects that as well. So you can imagine all the good potential that this energy holds. Let's move on because there is so much there. The 18th, so let's move back to the 18th for a bit. In a nutshell, the sun on the galactic center squaring Neptune. And I must say that Neptune squared the galactic center is the last one in our lifetimes. This is big, 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 big. I mean, really big, all encompassing, up to the degree of debilitating, driving literally crazy, having moments of insanity or total confusion type of divine downloads, where something mysterious washes us out from the inside out. Informationally, vibrationally, we may feel this as breakdown, as in big flu or COVID type symptoms, or I don't know, hyper fatigue, or where you just sleep all day, where you anticipate this and say, I'm staying in bed today. So, but regardless of how this comes through as bliss, highs, or altered states of consciousness, or illness, or fatigue, or the low, this will have very powerful effect later on in a few weeks or months, because this simply inserts information inside of our nervous system, basically stores it there like a compressed file until it is ready to be unpacked in a few months. So this is big energy. On the other hand, this is like jet washing. But what is being jet washed? The human collective unconscious. That Pisces, the duality, right? That part of the spirit that we generate, our filth, our evil. I have to say this directly, because what is evil? Well, us. Evil is not something that we point into ether or a deity. Evil is us, inside of us. Evil is inside everything in our existence. So we generated more than it generates itself, right? Evil cannot generate itself without us and other beings similar to us. So, that is being a bit power washed. So we may be feeling a bit emotional, or our egos might be in a bit of down this week, because all of us are evil. Evil is in all of us. Just that most of it is part of nature, right? and is not just tolerated, but it is a function of ours. But integrated in the harmony of all, it serves the greatest good when it is when it is so tumultuous that we are almost breathing it out, exhaling it with our every breath. That's when it's a problem. So, you know what I mean? So that's when it needs power wash. Because when we are exhaling it, we don't know we're doing it. We don't see it. We don't know it. Neither are we supposed to, because that's why every now and then Neptune and Pisces will square the galactic center. Every 200, I don't know how many years this happens. So the power wash is there to purify even our filthy spirit. But besides this, you can imagine, we're going to be feeling things that we never thought are even possible. Moving on, I want to get to the star of the week, where we finally have the Capricorn solstice on the 21st of December. As you know, with every type of equinox and solstice, it ends the karmic season of the past 3 months, it opens that of the next 3 months. On my hemisphere, it would be the winter season, but put it into your context, the winter solstice for me. So when I refer to winter solstice, know that for you, it's your summer solstice if you're living on the other hemisphere. So, on one hand, this is karmic, even in the big picture context, because it starts something. Astrologically speaking, well, Pluto did a lot in Capricorn all through the summer, autumn. But now, better said, only now, is the sun illuminating everything, right? So this is the start of the moment when we're truly getting it. So you can imagine, things might be a tiny bit scary out there in the world. The sun is light, shedding light on Capricorn top-down authority. So if they are in crazy mode, we're gonna be a bit afraid this week for them not to do something way too crazy to each other, right? But at the same time, they themselves are gonna be much more frightened of the fact that it so happens that this criminal investigation, that investigation, this, that, and everything that they've done since 2008 until now, different themes, different topics, different stages of investigations and what they've done, but everything is being poured out now. So you can imagine why this winter solstice, from a political, economical, geo tactical, or however you call it, perspective, diplomatic, right, is gonna be one that we will remember in history, just like many other big historic, winter, summers, or any season. Yeah, this is gonna be historic and very, very big. Speaking of 2008, the Arab Spring, right? There we go. Pluto's work is now gonna be examined under the microscope by the sun. So it's not, from this perspective, is not gonna be an easy next 3 months. However, fortunately, there is more than that in the picture, because whatever happens in the sky on at the moment of any solstice equinox, so any cardinal, sun into any cardinal, that speaks volumes what to expect next. And we have a T-square, a mutable T-square, very, very tight at the Capricorn solstice. Saturn, Jupiter, Moon. Moon in Virgo is how we really feel about something after, Virgo, knowing the fine details. Figures, facts, numbers, money, right? Because Virgo, when something connects to big picture and Virgo is part of it, the COVID. Administratively, how you managed it financially, and what's the greater truth behind it. So the COVID is still 2020 is still very much a hot topic in courts of justice. And what does Virgo have to do with courts of justice? Well, Virgo is the expertise. When the lab gives out the paper, that's Virgo. And because the moon is there, we're reacting to the truth. But then Jupiter in Gemini, the denial, sometimes the denial of something incriminates it 10 times more than not. You know what I mean? The United States, how they react to the International Court of Justice ruling, their reaction makes them trillion times more, how should I say, accomplice than if they would just, I don't know, be silent about it, or just, what they usually do the best. Just smile and let it pass. But no, this time they're vehement. It reveals the truth, the true feeling. It reveals just who you are in the scenario. And we're going to be seeing that in every stage of life, in everything really, in the next. Every player reveals itself for who they truly are. And this goes perfectly well for our own lives as well. Friendships are going to be revealed for what they are. And by this, I don't want to suggest something toxic or, the very bad type of scenarios, even though some friendships are like that. But this is where, what do friends truly feel about one another? Why are they friends? And this in itself evolves the friendship further. So this can be very, very positive, even though it changes the friendship forever. And why am I speaking about friendship? Gemini, right? Or sibling relationships. But friendship, I know not in this day and age, but in theory, right? Should be a non-blood brother sisterhood, right? That's what true friendship should be like, not what it is in this day and age, where I'm so sorry to be judgmental here, but for me personally, Attila, the human being, it seems ultimately beyond disgusting. The fakeness, anyway, so sorry. But the other element is Saturn in the T-square. So this is so reality-based that it's going to be salt on wound. But again, some people thrive under that energy. Yes, reality. This is real. Let's do it. Other people is when first they have to dry their eyes because the illusion shatters. They see reality for what it really is. So not a very, very easy week. But besides this, I would like to wish everyone a very, very happy Yule or, winter solstice who celebrates this. because the symbolic and deeply spiritual symbol of this is when we invite the sun, the symbol of the source of life, the symbol of ultimate compassion, all-encompassing love, right? To shine brighter. We place symbols in its remembrance. We, with our candles, and in modern days, the lights and everything that we use for illumination are symbols that we are mini suns doing the sun's illumination work until he rests. So it's such a beautiful chain of symbols and games where the human spirit plays with the creator, with nature, in symbols. It's so beautiful, pure, and sacred that the red guy and the modern Christmas, it's like amateur compared to where the true symbols of the winter solstice come from. And they're tumultuous. Every culture did something totally sacred and beautiful with it. So every culture's symbol system of this winter and Capricorn solstice, regardless of where they were on the planet, was really, really sacred and beautiful. You can see so much goodness and the true spirit of a nation by looking at their traditions. So, yeah. And because we are living in times where no ancestor has ever even fathomed, we are creating traditions right now, and we don't even know it. Our usual traditions are being swept out by the sun in Capricorn, right? Pluto already demolished them, and now we are creating new ones. Our spirits are in a way making love to the universe once again. And that game of making love will create new celebrations, new symbols, new stories, new way of expressing gratitude and receiving. Because, don't get me wrong, the ancients actually received. Like when they did something truly beautiful, the universe, nature, anything spoke back to them, sang back at them, laughed, smiled, giggled, or whatever you want back at them. So, of course, they were highly motivated. That is what we are beginning slowly and surely again to converse with the universe. The universe is not a thought, not a computer. The universe is alive. It has feelings. But we need to discover, and the universe is everything, both child, both an old woman, old man. It is ageless. It is everything that we can fathom. So basically, of course, it's alive. We need to start having one-on-one relationship with it again, just like the ancients did. So we can build our truth and our world, and not necessarily that which was passed down to us. And this will be the big lesson of both the Saturn-Jupiter square, but also the next 3 months. But more realistically, make it the next 3 years or more. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you a blessed winter celebration. May basically hope be the sun in your life and in the life of everyone who needs it. So may you be the light of hope in the lives of those who, for any reason, are not very much being able to see the light at the end of their tunnel. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you again wonderful winter celebrations. Until next time, bye for now.